Richard. Bom dia.
Bom dia, Daisy. How is everything?
Good. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Long time no see.
Indeed, indeed.
Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you for the invite.
It's an honor having you here.
It's an honor to be here. No, really, I've known you for a while and I've followed your career and I'm very much impressed.
Thank you.
Just so you know.
Thank you very much. How have you been?
Good. Doing quite a few things.
You're on Curaçao right now.
I'm on Curaçao right now and for the foreseeable future. So, yeah.
Okay, let's go back to your past.
Okay.
You're gonna tell me about your love and passion for pageants.
Okay, all right.
How did it start?
Oh, it started more than 50 years ago.
50 years ago.
I was a young kid, and my next door neighbor, Nena Sanchez, the beautiful and much remembered Nena Sanchez, became Miss Curaçao. So to me, that was like, big deal, the girl next door is a beauty queen. That was you could call it my introduction to pageants. Then Nena goes to the Miss Universe pageant and actually wins an award. So then,
Miss Congeniality, right?
Yes, and I get to see that. So it's like, oh wow, on
that's my neighbor.
American television, my neighbor, wow. So that was the first time that my mother, who was well known as a seamstress, especially for wedding gowns.
Okay.
In 1967, she was asked to make a gown for a Miss Curaçao contestant.
Oh, okay.
So that was like the second thing. So it came very close to home. So I actually saw the contestant in the gown before everybody else. And then we spent the summer in Venezuela with her family, and that was the year that Miss Venezuela became first runner-up, Mariela Perez Branger, which was their highest placement ever at that point.
Okay.
Now at that time they didn't show the pageant live, but they showed the recording a few days after. So everybody gathered in their homes to watch this very momentous occasion. And as we all sat down, and the pageant had just started, the earthquake of 1967 happened, which was a terrible, terrible thing. I must say it's probably one of the worst experiences of my life and something that is, burned into my memory. But then that also became associated a little bit with pageants, something momentous.
The contrast is very big then.
Yeah, it's like, and as a matter of fact, I never actually saw that pageant completely. We had sat down to watch it. I've looked for it on YouTube. It's nowhere to be found. It's very, very strange. There is no complete video of that pageant anywhere. Then the next year, 1968, another great thing happened. All the contestants for Miss Venezuela came to Curaçao.
Oh.
And that was the year they said there was a big rivalry between a brunette and a blonde, which were the two big favorites. And they were here, and I got to take pictures with both of them. To tell you the truth, I don't know where those pictures ended up. I've never saw them again. But that was, again, pageant came very close to home. And then the cherry on the cake, as they say, is Ana Marie Brathwaite. Almost winning. Yeah. So that was like, oh wow, so that was, for a young kid, though, that cemented all of that, and I became a fan. I would buy magazines and follow and save pictures, trying to find whatever I could, which was very limited because, of course, in those days we didn't have the web. So it was very difficult to find things like that. And it wasn't until many, many years later that I came to find out that in the world, there were a lot of people who were just like me, very big fans of pageantry. But that I can tell you a little bit later. When I moved to college, this was then in the 70s, I became aware of how big pageants were in the US. Pageants were really big. The Miss USA pageant and the Miss Universe pageant would win the rating of the week they were in. People were very much involved. And then again, two things happened. One of them is that one of my no. First thing was that I met this fellow student, a girl called Monica. I'll never forget her name. An African American, and we were talking, and she was in my class, and she asked me where I was from, and I told her, "Oh, I'm going to tell you, but you probably won't know where I'm from."
Surprise!
You know, because everybody who I had met, and I told them, Curaçao, where? What is that? Isn't that a drink? Which was the other thing I would get. And then she said, I said, Curaçao. She said, of course I know where Curaçao is. I'm like, huh? How? She goes, Anna Marie Brathwaite. And I was like, wow, okay, you know about her? She said, yes. She is the person who is the first person who made me believe that someone like me could be beautiful.
The impact that Anna Marie has,
it's amazing.
It's bigger than we think.
Yeah, oh, it is. It definitely is. Because this was an American girl in the state of New York who maybe hadn't heard of Curaçao before that, and yet all this happened. And the impact wasn't even because of who the person is. You know, and that was, really, that again hit it like, oh wow, look at the impact pageants can have.
Yes.
Then in 1979, one of my classmates became Miss, I was studying in Syracuse, New York. She became Miss Syracuse USA, competing in Miss New York USA. So I got to meet like a Miss USA contestant. I got to meet, I knew her, she was in my class. She didn't win Miss New York USA, but the interesting is that Miss New York USA did win Miss USA that year.
Oh.
And competed with Maritza Sayalero from Venezuela, who won Miss Universe. Let me see, then in the next big event, I think, was in 1984. I had come back to the islands, finished my studies, and I was trying to convince my niece to participate. She wouldn't hear of it, but a friend of hers who had just returned from Holland, she liked the idea, and she did sign up for the contest.
And who is she?
She is actually the winner of that contest, Susie Verbrachen.
Oh, Susie Verbrachen.
Yeah, so that was okay, wow, you get the feeling, oh, I have a good eye, because, I did tell her to participate, and she did win. So that year, the Miss Universe pageant was held in Miami. So to support Susie, I traveled to the Miss Universe pageant, which was my first time. It was actually seeing how it all comes together. I didn't know anything about the preliminaries and stuff, so I arrived there after the preliminaries. So I missed, actually the really good part, I had missed that. But I did, through Susie, I got a rehearsal pass, so I was able to watch all the rehearsals. I remember, see how it's done, how nothing is actually live and unscripted. The whole show is totally scripted. And at that time, you had Bob Barker, and I could see they had the flashcards, and then I realized at one point, during the contest, you see, and we welcome these beautiful young women. What that was the card being changed to the next card. So the beautiful got stretched out so they could flip the card.
Okay.
And so it's like, wow, actually seeing how a show like that gets put together. Again, impressive. Yeah, oh, sorry.
No problem.
The next year, in 1985, I was here. I read that the PR person of the organizing committee, Cibeco, Curaçao Youth Beauty Contest Organization, had resigned after the Miss Curaçao pageant. And that was right before the start of the Miss Teenage pageant. And that they were looking for someone. I said, I called.
So that was your chance.
Yes, I called Susie right away, and I said, Susie, you have to introduce me to these people. And I got an appointment with Judy Timber, the president, and I was hired, I guess. So I became the public relations person for Cibeco. At that time, I started with the Miss Teenage pageant. Now, then came what I would say was the best, worst decision of my life. Why? Why best? Because it was the best thing I could have done, that decision. But it was also one of the worst ones because I didn't even know what I was getting myself into.
It's a whole different world, right?
Yes. And what happened was that Judith didn't want to be the president anymore. She would remain as an advisor, but she wanted someone else to actually take the day-to-day running of the contest.
Yeah.
And she asked me whether I wanted to be the president. And in my enthusiasm, I said yes right away. But why do I say...
I'll figure out later, but I'm going to say yes.
Why do I say it was the worst decision? I became the person in charge of an organization that I didn't actually know even, because I had only been there a few months. I had been involved in one pageant, but not in the actual big one, which was Miss Curaçao,
yeah, and that's the biggest
which is
one.
A whole different level, even for the organization.
Yeah.
So it was like what they call baptism by fire. You know, it's like, or someone taking a baby and throwing them in the pool and say, swim. I also say it was one of the best decisions because I did learn a lot. And I had the support of this great organization and a very, very well organized organization so that you could learn, and there was a procedure, and there were procedures, and there was a setup, and it was just perfect. It was a perfect learning opportunity to learn how to do pageants.
So you were part of Sibeco then, the president,
Yeah,
for how long?
I was president of Sibeco for 2 years. Now, as a president of Sibeco, I also got to travel to the Miss Universe pageant again, now this time as national director representative. So that again is a whole different world.
It's whole public.
So now I knew how this contest was set up, so I was in Panama. That year was in Panama for I think about 10 days. So I actually got to follow everything, the preliminaries and everything, be there at the meetings, get to know the people in the organization, and actually know what it means to be a national director, to be there for your contestant.
Yeah.
And then, so I was president as well in 1987, which was a very momentous year because at that time we were celebrating the 25th Miss Universe pageant as well as the 20th Miss Teenage pageant. So both in 1 year. So there was a lot that had to happen.
Pressure
and I just had 1 year experience at that point, you know.
Oh wow.
But yeah, it was again a great learning opportunity, and I must say then that whatever success I achieved in pageants after that came from the experience in those years. And you know, sometimes I look back and I say, you know, if I knew then what I know now, things would have been different. But that's not how life works, you know. But you just learn from what you learn, and when you learn it, and you apply it, you know. So that was so 1988. I resigned. I was back in 1989 as a judge. Then again in 1993, I got to produce the show for the final Miss Curaçao pageant, which also happened to be the 30th anniversary of the Miss Curaçao pageant. That was at Centro Pro Arte.
Our memorable Centro Pro Arte.
Yeah, and that was an amazing place, and I think I sorely miss it till today.
I miss it, yes.
Yeah. Now, the next step in my pageant career was the advent of the internet. Through the advent of the internet, my introduction to the internet was in 1996. So I immediately started looking for pageant things, and then I found all these chat rooms at that time. So I would go into these chat rooms, and after a while you get to know the people in the chat room, and you get to talk, and then you realize, oh wow.
Online friendships.
Yeah, there is people here who are just like me, and that they love pageants, and there is actually a name for people like us, which is Missologist. And then came and people started talking about the 1997 pageant, which was going to be in Miami, and that they were going to go. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go as well.
That's the night of Ferno Vasquez, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So I said, I'm going to go as well. And we started talking who's going to be there, who's not going to be there. I knew I could get a rehearsal pass. At that point, I wasn't part of the organization, so I didn't know how I would get one. But I said I will figure it out. And probably one of my friends could have helped me. But one of them, Roberto Macedo from Brazil, who's my friend to this day, he told me, listen, if you have a letter from a news organization saying that you're the representative, you will be allowed to have a press pass. And with a press pass, you can get into certain events where as a simple guest, you would never get in. So I knew the people from, obviously through the pageant, from La Prensa newspaper, so I went to them and I said, you know, if you could help me with this, if you could give me a letter like this, I will actually write articles for you.
I remember those articles.
So, and that's how it happened that year there was daily coverage of the Miss Universe pageant. And I think I can be very proud to say that I'm the person responsible for the whole island knowing what was happening with Verna Vasquez in Miami.
Yes. I remember I was waiting for the newspaper to read what she was doing.
Okay, oh, good to hear that.
Yes.
Very good to hear that. And you know, and it actually started before. I had written a webpage. I had taught myself how to write the HTML code to actually write a web page and upload pictures. And I had gotten, and I did have a following. It was called RJ's homepage at that point. In like a system called GeoCities. I don't know, people might remember the GeoCities accounts. So I put up a picture of Verna Vasquez, and the reaction was immediate. People are like, wow, beautiful, this, that. So I went there, and I remember I have this gift, I think, in life, where I end up in places where I get to see things and hear things that other people don't. And I don't know, I don't seek it out, it just happens. I went to the rehearsal for the preliminary show. And I sat down, I picked a place that was right in the middle, from front to back, and from left to right, right in the middle. So I could watch the whole rehearsal. I see this group of 3 people come, and they sit right in front of me. Now, the theater was half empty. There was no one in the theater almost. But they came and I guess they had the same idea that that was a good vantage point. So they came in and they sat right in front of me. And who were they? Lupita Jones of Mexico, the national director, and her 2 assistants. So I kept hearing all their comments on every single contestant. And I remember Verna came out in swimwear.
The best. She was the best.
And her reaction was, a Curaçao se le ve un cuerpazo. That was the reaction she had. And I was like, okay, that's good. Another good point. Because this is a director, this is a former winner. It's a director whose girl is competing against Verna and who's saying this. Now, then there was a preliminary in which Verna shined. Now, up until that point, I had been going to the events, and when you went to the event with a press pass, you could give them a list of 5 contestants who you wanted to speak with. So what I would do, I would put 5 people on the list, but I would always put Verna on that list because I always wanted Verna to be with the press people. So she would come in every day, and she was there. And then the day after the preliminaries, I did the same thing. And I must say, at one point, I was embarrassed for the other contestants because they were, because everybody asked for 5 people, so you had about, something over 10 contestants. They were all standing there, and every single person was standing in line to speak to Verna Vasquez. Every single one, and the other girls were just standing there. And I felt really bad for them because it hadn't been like that before the preliminaries. Before, people would talk to each, but this was everybody. It was just like there was no one else in that room.
Do you think we got robbed?
Oh, we definitely got robbed. Definitely.
She was the winner, right?
She was the winner. Now, I'll tell you, I'll go in more into that. The day of the pageant, there is a dress rehearsal. So, you buy a ticket for the dress rehearsal, but there is no arranged seating. So I went in early and I got a seat in front row. On a corner, I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, I got a good seat. I'm gonna watch the dress rehearsal. Someone comes up to me and said, you speak English? I said, yes, of course. He said, would you like to be a judge? I'm like, what? She said, we need someone to stand in for the judges at the judges' table during the dress rehearsal. So I was like, sure, you know. So I sat at the judges' table. When the whole show goes through, when Judge Pat O'Brien was introduced in the dress rehearsal, I'm the one who got up and greeted everybody, and it was a full house.
That was your moment. That was your moment.
I was Pat O'Brien in that moment. Then I got to ask the judges question to the top 6. Now Werner was not in the top 10 in the dress rehearsals, but I got to actually see the whole show from a vantage point, because those were the best seats in the house, and I saw the whole show. The only thing that would be different in the evening was the 10 contestants. So I said, you know what? The seats that I had bought were not that great for the finals. So I said, I'm not going to sit in those seats. I'm going to go in the press room, and I'm just going to watch it from there. I've actually seen the show live already, so I'll go in and look at it. So there, contrary to the people in the auditorium, we actually got to see the scores that the contestant had gotten in the preliminaries. And that's where I got to see that Werner actually won the preliminaries. So when the Miss Universe pageant started, in the scoring system, Werner Vasquez was #1.
Wow.
So the show starts, I'm sitting there, I'm looking, and then Werner scores 3rd place in interview, but then she scores 1st place in swimsuit, 1st place in evening gown. So Werner was definitely, and at that point, I don't remember the score. I don't remember if she was still in 1st position or not, but she was definitely top 3.
But she won also swimsuit competition.
Yeah, she won swimsuit and evening gown. So she was in top 3 at that moment.
Yeah.
So when Werner fell, was not included, she made it to top 6, and that's when people said, she said it may not have been her best moment, but it definitely wasn't her worst.
No.
And her question was not answered so badly that she could not have made the top 3.
Yeah.
The reason she did not make top 3 is because of the way Carolina Herrera voted. And I'm going to say it again. Carolina Herrera, you robbed us. And it's a bit long to explain it now, but it was because of the way she voted that Miss Venezuela went up and Werner went down. And she didn't only do it to Werner, she also did it to Denny Mendes from Italy,
yes.
who were at that point, in fact, the 2 major favorites to win.
I remember.
So, and she knew that somehow, and she made sure that they were both kept out of the top 3.
It's such a...
And, and now it's all hindsight. You don't know, we don't know whether Werner would have won. But I think, and if you look at other pageants, even the year before with Alicia Machado and Tarin Mansell. Alicia Machado had been in 1st place the whole evening. And even though Tarin Mansell answered better than she did, Alicia still won. Because I think that favoritism carries through. And unless you totally blow the answer, you are going to win. So I think that if Werner had made top 3, Werner would have won that contest. But again, we'll never know.
People still remember Werner, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're still talking about her.
Yeah. There is a generation, I see it especially here in Curaçao, the younger kids, who are like maybe 20 and under. They don't know who Werner Vasquez is, because everything moves so quickly now. And some of them don't even know who Ana Maria Braffet is, or they've heard the name, but they don't know exactly what it is that she did. But there are people out there who still know who Werner Vasquez is. Now, what was so beautiful was about a week after Werner came back, I got a call from Gonzalo Quales, who has a program, Gonzalo, please forgive me, it's the same program he still has, Conclusion. There it is. You see, sometimes my chips still work. And he calls me and said he has an invitation for me to be on his show. And I'm like, really? For what? He says, to be here with Werner Vasquez. I'm like, wow, I'm surprised you're inviting me for this. He said, no, I asked Verna that if she wanted to, she could come with someone to the contest, to the program, and she could invite whoever she wanted. And Verna asked him to invite me.
Wow.
And I tell you, that is one of the most touching moments in my life. You know, I will never forget that gesture. Because in the whole scheme of things, she recognized it.
Your effort.
And that is like the greatest thing.
But you think
Yeah, and
that
that's-
we don't know the impact that Verna had in Miss Universe? I think
I don't think we're aware of
we're
it.
aware of it, no.
And you know, we talked about the impact of Anna Marie, we talked about the impact of Verna, but there are others
Yes.
who have had an impact, who probably didn't make the semifinals. But I'll give you an example. There is this page called globalbeauties.com,
Yes, I remember that page,
who
yes.
are a pageant source of information. And a few years back, I think it was in the early noughts, they had an article where they went to every year of Miss Universe and they mentioned notable facts. And when they reached 1973, they mentioned, they said the most notable exemption was Ingeborg Zielinski. They had expected her to be in the finals. And imagine that more than 30 years later, somebody remembered that it shocked them that Ingeborg Zielinski was not a semifinalist. So that's where you see the impact.
I can also probably say that my cousin made it to the top 10.
Yes,
Anna
we remember
Yeah.
her as well,
Yes.
because she was, after Anna Marie, she was the next.
She was the next.
Yeah.
Very proud.
And after her, it took a while
It took a
before we
while.
had someone again.
Yes.
So yes.
We had
And-
Jacqueline.
Yes, she was next, and
Yes.
then we had we had Verna.
And after Verna, Kanisha.
That's when we get.
Was it?
What-
There's such a big gap.
There is a big gap, and that's the funny thing is that when you look at Miss Universe, since IMG took over, in 6 years we've made the finals 3 times. Whereas the other 4 times we made the finals, it was over a 50-year span.
Wow.
So IMG loves us for some reason.
You also live in London and in Spain
Yes,
and Malaga, right?
yes,
In Malaga.
Malaga, Spain.
And you worked in several pageants.
Yes.
In
As-
both countries.
Yes, as a matter of fact, when I moved to the United Kingdom, I contacted the director of pageant operations at Miss Universe. We'll ignore that. At Miss Universe, and I asked her to give me or put me in contact with the people who do Miss Universe Great Britain. So I got in contact with them. They invited me to be a judge in the pageant. I was a judge twice. Wait, twice? Yes, twice. And the second time, I offered to coach the winner as a gift to the organization. And I must say that was a very special occasion because this young lady, Amy Willerton, became the first British semi-finalist in 30 years. Now, I can't claim that it was my work because, as a matter of fact, Amy and I had a falling out, and I didn't finish her preparation with her, but I did see that she took on a lot of what I coached her with. And as a matter of fact, we have patched things up and we're now friends again.
Oh, nice.
Because for a long time we had no communication, but she's an amazing young woman, and you know, I could see that she was going to make it. I also worked with a very special young lady because the same people who do Miss Universe Great Britain, they also do Miss Wales. Miss Wales is from Miss World. So I was also asked to be a judge at Miss Wales. And again there, I offered to coach the winner. And the winner that year was, to me, an extraordinary young lady who right now is like a daughter to me, Emma Jenkins. And I coached her for Miss World, which surprisingly she didn't place. And then 4 years later, I coached her again for Miss Universe Great Britain. She won Miss Universe Great Britain, and I was convinced that I had a Miss Universe. That I have never met or worked with any contestant that was so perfect. From, just from being so perfect for the role of Miss Universe. And another thing that makes me very proud is that in working with Emma, I worked with another amazing young woman from Curaçao, Stephanie Francisca, who I think everybody knows who Stephanie Francisca is. Stephanie Francisca had just moved, she had moved to Britain the year before, and I was involved with the contestant the year before, and she had already coached her catwalk the year before, but she also worked with Emma. And she worked with Emma as a contestant for Miss Universe Great Britain. And then she also worked with Emma as Miss Universe Great Britain and a contestant for Miss Universe. And that was a great feeling to be able to...
So people of Curaçao coaching someone from Great Britain?
Yeah.
I mean...
And then Stephanie also coached the year after, coached a contestant who also won Miss Universe Great Britain.
Oh, wow.
So she has 2 Miss Universe Great Britain winners back to back.
Back to back?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
And then when I moved to Spain, quite by accident, I found a page about the Miss World Malaga pageant and also Mr. International Malaga. And so I contacted them as well, and I was also involved in judging with them. And on one of those occasions, this was in 2017 when I judged the Miss and Mr. Marbella, Mr. World, no, Mr. Okay, Miss World Marbella and Mr. International Marbella. And there I was able to, one of my co-judges was Angela Ponce, who the year after became the first transgender woman to compete at Miss Universe. An amazing person, I was in awe of her then, and then more so when she became Miss Universe Spain, and there couldn't have been a better contestant for Spain. And as a matter of fact, in my pageant consultancy blog, I actually named her the most elegant contestant of the 2018 Miss Universe pageant. She was excellently dressed, and excellently not just in the clothes she was wearing, but in wearing the appropriate clothes for the occasion. I think she was the only contestant that was always dressed according to the occasion. She took it all, and in every interview she was very nice. And she accomplished something that hadn't happened with Miss Universe in years. She got a full-page interview in Time magazine. Time magazine that does not do pageants.
Imagine.
And that in itself is a major accomplishment. And I think she got that because she is so well-spoken. So yeah.
It was that year that Akisha participated, right?
Yes.
Wow, and we made it to the top 10.
Yes.
I honestly believe that she would make it to the top 5, even top 3.
Yes.
So it was like a disappointment when she didn't make it, because I know she's been working her whole life for this moment. And
Akisha was a favorite of mine since she went to the Miss Earth pageant. And I saw her evolution, and I saw how she became that year Miss Universe Curaçao. And I was in awe of her, and I think she did extremely well. And I think the fact that Akisha did not make top 5 is one of the things that is wrong with the Miss Universe contest as it is now.
What is that?
Miss Universe just chooses the usual suspects. Look at the top 5,
so you think,
and look at the top 10, it's usually the same countries. How is it possible that in 5 years, only 3 countries have won? You had Philippines winning twice, you had, what was the other? South Africa winning twice, and then France. And of all of them, I'll say it here, the only one who I think deserved it was France. That is my personal opinion. But then, who were the top 5? Mexico, Colombia, Puerto Rico. It's the same countries every time. And I think that is one of the reasons why now every year Miss Universe breaks its own record of low viewership. In the IMG era, although IMG loves Curaçao, every year the ratings are lower than the year.
Let's go back to Curaçao.
Okay.
The end of the month, there's a Miss Curaçao pageant.
Yes.
What are your expectations? 3 beautiful ladies, all 3 very talented. I think it will be a very tight competition. What's your opinion?
It is a very tight competition. And I say if I look at it at this moment, they're all very strong, but they all need work. They all need to work on something. And the thing is, each one has to work on something else.
Yeah.
You can't say, oh, it's a they're, like I say again, all 3 of them are very strong. And I think with the proper guidance, whoever wins can do very well. And with IMG, the chances there that
we can make it again.
We could do well. But I think it's very important, and I'm going to say something about coaching in general, which I learned through the years, is that when you coach, there is no set program. You can say, oh, this is how I'm going to coach. Each person is different.
Yeah.
You have to know your contestant. You have to absolutely know them, know their strengths, know their weaknesses, and know how far you can go with them, in the sense that you can coach someone something, but if it's not in their nature, you cannot force them. And you as a coach are not going to get up on that stage and do it. They have to. And if they get up on that stage and do something which they don't own, the judges, as a judge, I can tell you, you will notice that something is off.
Okay. And what are you doing at this moment? Are you involved in any pageants or?
As a matter of fact, I am. For the last 2 years, I've been a judge in something that is very interesting. Is the Miss and Mr. Supranational competition, which is a new competition. They have created something, I guess, out of the pandemic. They made a virtual contest for participants in countries that do not have a national director for Miss and Mr. Supranational. So it's a virtual competition, and the winners get the right to represent their country at Miss and Mr. Supranational. So that's how it started last year, was the Superstar Search. And then I coached the 2 winners, Miss Supranational Bahamas, because then they get the title of the country, Naisha Tilas, and Mr. Supranational Nepal, Santosh Upadhyay, who, as a matter of fact, was 3rd runner-up at the international competition. So that was last year, and then, which I think in itself is something that's moving pageants forward. You know, you're doing something different from anything that was done before.
So it's like, ladies and gentlemen, they can both participate.
And when there were 2 winners.
Okay.
Now this year, we did something different, and which I believe is the future of pageants. Okay. In that we started out with the groups of female and male competitors, but in the end we only had 1 winner.
Oh wow.
And the winner in this case is male, and he will be competing at Mr. Supranational as Mr. Supranational Argentina. So why I think this is the future, because, you know, you have men and women competing together. You have people, human beings. And then it's not about discrimination or objectification of women or men, or no, everybody's competing, and you're competing, you're evaluating
the person,
the human being, the person.
Yeah.
And you could say, okay, how did you do it? Okay, there are parts which you have tasks, and you evaluate the task. An interview is an interview. You can interview a man or a woman, it doesn't make a difference. But even the physical part, there was a swimsuit competition and there was an evening wear competition. But the swimsuit, it's about health and fitness. So you can look, is this person healthy and fit? It's not about, is this woman, it's not about nice figure, no, is this person healthy and fit? And in the evening wear, it's the same. The young women competed in gowns, the men in evening suits. And it was about, is this person elegant? And I sincerely believe we did something totally innovative, totally new, and as I said, I believe this is the future of pageants. So I would like to see if that develops any further.
Oh, nice.
And at the moment, I'm also coaching Mr. Supranational Argentina in his quest for the Mr. Supranational title. I offered that when I was a judge because I knew, okay, these people they're on their own really, so they win. They need someone to guide them in the process to the international pageant. So I offered to do that, and it's been a very rewarding experience. And it has shown me how many things are available nowadays just because we can do them virtually. You know, when I was younger, you would have when I started in pageants, you would have never imagined something like that even being possible. And now here I am coaching people that I've actually never met in person, and forming bonds with them, and really, you really get to know these people. I think even more because of the distance. You talk a lot, and you have to find out who this person is. Exactly. And it creates very strong bonds, and that's the one thing I'm very proud of my whole pageant career, of the strong bonds that I have developed with, well, of course with your winners, because you work more with them, but even with some of the competitors. I still meet people now and then who participated in Miss Curaçao or Miss Teenage from my president years, and when I greet them by name, sometimes they're even shocked and say, "You remember my name?" And it's a great feeling. It's great that you can meet these people after all these years, and they have fond memories of something we went through together, and that you made a difference in their lives. And that's very, very rewarding. Something that I'm very proud of.
Nice, very nice. What are your future goals?
My future goals are, let me see, I just want to make a difference, and I'm open to, I am always open, I'm always looking, where can I make a difference?
Okay, so before we wrap up this interview, I would like to do a game with you. You have to choose, I gave you 2 options.
Okay.
And then you have to choose your favorite one.
Okay. Okay.
Okay?
Let's do it.
So it's like, if I tell you like blue or green, and then you say blue because blue is your favorite color.
Okay.
Okay, so that's an example.
Something like that. Okay.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Osmel Sausa or Lupita Jones?
Osmel Sausa.
Alicia Machado, Tarim Mansell?
Alicia Machado. That was tough.
Oh, that's a good one. Barbara Palacios, Irene Saez?
Barbara Palacios.
Annemarie Braafheid or Akisha Albert?
Whoa, okay. I have to go with Annemarie Braafheid.
Annemarie Braafheid or Nena Sanchez?
Oh, you're bad.
I know what both mean for you, so.
Looking at it like that, I say Nena Sanchez.
Nena Sanchez. Miss Universe, Trump era, or Miss Universe?
IMG?
IMG.
Trump.
Trump.
I won't say anything else.
Okay. And last but not least, I have to do it.
Okay.
Team Johnny or Team Amber?
Johnny all the way.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been an honor. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.